Here we will discuss about linting rules as the best practices. Um, there can be many cases for linting, like let's say you follow a specific standards of coding. Let's say you have this export client in JavaScript, and semicolons are not necessary. Some people prefer it, some don't, so you can remove it, and then other people will follow some other linting rules and all, and this creates a inconsistency. Like if you are the only developer, then the coding consistency will maintain, but as your project becomes bigger and bigger, coding consistency can become difficult to maintain if you don't have any linting in place, and that is where these linters come into picture. And eslint is one of the very popular JavaScript linters which enforces specific coding styles to all the users. I mean developers. So let's say today you have some specific ways and you don't want to, you want to follow arrow functions, you don't want to use anonymous function, you don't want to have undeclared variables and so on. So all those kind of things, you can always go for a linting. So for all those use cases, you can always use a linter. Okay, so let me just save this because it was complaining. And sometimes, there are tons of linting rules that you can reuse. Like you can see these are existing rules that you can use to make your linting easy. Like I have explicit member accessibility, function return type. These you specify 0 means basically it should be fine, 1 means it should give you warning, and 2 is errors. So you can see that no unused was. I can actually use error like this, or I can just write 2. Both means the same. So if I go here and let's say I say const x equal to 2, and if I save it, you will see that I'm getting an error which says that x is declared but it is never used. And that's how you make use of linters to make your life better. So off is again 0, and just to maintain consistency, I can actually remove all these and put 0 like this, and this will work the same way. Okay, anyways, now sometimes what happens is you want to have a custom rule. Like if I give you my use case, currently I'm operating with databases, Superbase, which is like an open source alternative of Firebase. So basically it is I would say development kit as a service. It gives you inbuilt authentication, storage, file storage, and database and all that stuff, on the fly. It does not let you, I mean, as a developer, you can just sign up and use these things. Okay, so not just Superbase, don't get too much into any database, let's say, which is very critical, and you are going to have full access of that database from your backend services through some credentials, some secret keys, some tokens, some cookies, whatever it is. Okay, so these keys should be super secure, because let's say tomorrow if someone gets access to those keys, they can totally manipulate your databases, and for that purpose, you use environment variables and all that. However, here I want to restrict, like, there is this particular thing called Superbase private service role, which I want to restrict, and don't let a lot of users, basically don't let other developers reuse this variable, because it could expose it. And what I have done is I've created a admin client, and now this admin client can be used anywhere. So this particular variable will just be used here, and I don't want to reuse it anywhere else. So for that, this is some kind of custom requirement, and for that I have to come up with custom eslint plugin. So I just created a custom plugin, and this tutorial is all about how you can also create in case if you need. And if you think this particular use case would expand for a lot of other users, you can also upload this particular plugin into npm repository as a open source contribution, and then others can also make use of it. So coming back, so this is the plugin. I have named it restricted env variables, and within this you can have multiple rules. So one of those is no private env variable. So basically I want to restrict the usage of some specific variables, not everywhere, at max 1 places. I mean, you can decide it up. Like here I have just disabled the rule using this comment. However, if I depending upon the requirement, you can extend it, but for my use case I just wanted to restrict it, and that is how this rule is working. Okay, so let's slowly see how this is working. So first things first, there is something called AST Explorer. Okay, this is going to be very useful when you are writing eslint rules. You can find it. This is the very short URL. You can Google it, AST Explorer. The first link should be this. So here I wrote my code, whatever that particular code is, and then I selected JavaScript, and make sure you select Esprit. So Esprit is because eslint by default parses JavaScript using this Esprit. So that is why you have to be specific to that. You have to specify that, and accordingly you have to do all the linting thing. Okay. Now you will see that whenever you select any specific create client, you will see all the highlighted properties, how you can identify that particular entity. So here it is, identifier, type is identifier, and so on. And just to debug in real time, you can just press Control Shift C or Command Shift C, and then you have this console. You clear the console and open this transform. I think it was in inspect mode. So now let me open the transform, and depending upon whatever eslint version you are using, so if I show you mine version, you can go to package.json and check for eslint. Yeah, so it is 8.2, so I'll be using 8.2. Okay, so transform eslint v8. Now here is a piece of snippet that I prepared just to reiterate this all again and again, and focus on the concepts directly, because your use case would definitely be different. If this is your use case, you can just reuse the same code. That is not a problem, but I just wanted to highlight how you can select and how you can write. So if you see this, basically we have one meta, which is like description. If you want to give suggestions, you can add suggestions here, and there is a syntax for suggestions also. So custom eslint rule suggestions. Okay, yeah, so this is how you can, add, whenever you're reporting, you can add a fix, how you want to fix it, and then insert. I mean, there is a lot of functions, and it is, again, you can read through all these properties. There is a lot to explore here. So if you want to add a fixer, you can accordingly, um, add a fixed rule in this, if it is fixable or not. So in my case, I turned both of these to false because I want to just show the rule and avoid any developer by accidentally using those key properties anywhere else. So that is number one. Now you can see that I am taking the input using variables to check. So I'm using context.options of 0. Just for the use of debugging purposes, I added my key directly here. And then I'm checking identifier node. So why I wrote identifier, because if I go here, I select, you will see that this is a type of identifier. I am actually highlighting the env because it is easier to confirm, because I can check one node above, it should be processed, and the next node should be one of these variables to check. So you will see all of these are identifier, and that is why I picked identifier. Let's say if I had something else, let's say if I go here, this is, yeah, so you can see that this is a semicolon and export default declaration. So we can pick this one. Actually, this yellow thing is highlighting, and let's say if I go here, so you can see that this is a variable declarator and so on. So whatever you want to take in, you can accordingly pick it. In my case, I wanted identifier, that's why I'm using identifier and then wrapped it. Then this returns a node. Now you can check the node, and what I'm checking is this should be env, and the parent object name should be process, that is one node before. And then variables to check includes parent.parent.property. Basically parent will let you navigate, and this is a little bit confusing because you may think parent should be the nodes before and not after, but this is how it works. Even I'm not very expert in this, but yeah, this is what I've been learning, I understood by learning. And you can always, like, if I just go here and if I remove this if statement and I just console log node, then you will see, you will get a lot of information what exactly it is about. So here we go to parent. If you go to parent object, then you will get the above node, that is for sure. Then you need to debug a little bit. I mean, if you want to go inside of it, then you go to this parent, and then there is a lot of things, like you can go to object, and you have to see type should be identifier, and keep on going inside. That is how like, I mean, of course there should be a proper documentation, but this is how my understanding has been until now. So if in case if you are aware of better ways, just feel free to suggest in the comments. But yeah, like, after inspecting a lot of these parameters, how this is going to be, what exactly is inside that, I got to know, like, these are the two variables that I want to use. So basically parent.parent.property.name. So if I again log it, let me just quickly log it here itself, node.parent. So this is the parent node, and then parent.parent. So again, I'll go to parent, and then it's set property, and you can see that here we can get the node next to it. And if I go further on, then you will see that there is something else, and property, and so on. The hierarchy is a little bit confusing, I would say. There is one more way. You can always go to JSON and keep on going deep and deep to understand. I mean, yeah, if this works, you can use this method also, because this is a little bit more clear, because you know how you are getting into the nested fields. So let's say if I try to search env here. Okay, I think it's not letting me search here. Let's see. So here we have env, right? Now env name, and then we can see other property. Okay, so you can see that here finding hierarchy is a little bit easier, because in console all of this you have to expand, but here you can still. So one way is using this. Of course you can use tree also if you are good at visualizations. So you select that particular one, and then keep on expanding property, location, range, property. Location we don't need to expand, computed, range. I think tree is also not that intuitive. Anyways, so you need to expand it and then do all these research, and then finally use your property. And once you find the property, then you need to use context.report, whichever node it is, message, and you will see all of this here. So if I minimize it a little bit, so you will see that usage of this is how the message will come, this is how the arrow will come, and everything. Okay, and once you are happy with your solution, you can just copy this code and come back to your VS Code editor. So I have created a folder, eslint-custom plugins. You can name it anything, that is fine, and whatever your base name of the plugin should be. There you need to create an index.js file, and it should look like this. So you have no private variables, which is basically one of the rules of this big plugin, and then you need to add it like this. This should be straightforward. Here, whatever you copied there, you can just paste it here. So you can see that I have added some extra checks here. Basically, node, let's say in some cases node.parent would be defined, but node.parent won't be defined, and it will throw me error. To avoid all this, I have added some extra checks just to be super sure. And then environment and everything is same. So all of this you can just copy paste it here. Once you copy paste it here, then you need to do a couple of things. You need to go to your eslint file. There you need to add this plugin, which is restrict env variables, whatever plugin name you gave there, and then whichever rule you want to add. So here, no private environment variables, and then I want to make it an error, no warnings, no ignoring, totally error if someone tries to reuse it, and whichever variables I want to add. So super base, private service role. Okay, and if I go, so this is how you will specify it. Then you need to go to your package.json and install it. So for that, I have specified restrict env variables, and since it is coming from an internal file, which is this guy, so I've specified eslint-custom-plugin / restrict environment variables. I don't need to put because index.js is what it is looking for. And once you do that, then you can always do yarn install to install that. And let's say, let me just do yarn remove first and see if it works. So I have removed it, and if I run yarn lint, okay, I'll get an error. So let me go to let's see if we get an error actually. Yep, we are getting this error. So I'll just do a reinstall yarn add. I hope it has not been removed from package. Okay, it has been. So I'm just re-adding the same thing, the same syntax, file colon and everything, and then I'll do a yarn install. So this time I think it should be installed. Let's see in the node modules. You can always check this file in the node modules. So eslint, yeah, here I can see that it is reinstalled. So let's try to lint it. Okay, lint was successful, but see what happens when I remove this comment. Okay, and save it and try to run it again. Anyways, it is already highlighted, so I don't need to run this. So if I remove this and save it, you will see that it starts to complain, and there is a lot of things happening. So better go to terminal and go to properties. So you can see that this is the warning. What happens if I go back here and let's say if I go to client, so these variables that you see, these can be publicly exposed. That is not a problem. But let's say these variables also I don't want it to expose. Okay, so what will happen if I do it like this? Okay, and save it, and if I go back here, you will see that this is not complaining, right? Can you guess why? Yeah, if I remove this and save it, and now if I go back, okay, so that was the thing which was missing. Basically I had it like I was taking the first element only, but I need to take all the options, and that is why it was giving me that error. Okay, so if I go, I should just replace it to be safer side. Okay, so this was the entire process. I hope you got everything how it is happening. And now if I go here, and I need to fix this one, and I think this is not coming because eslint needs to refresh, but since I don't need this, I can just keep it like this. So that's all for this tutorial. I hope you understood what is the concept of linting and everything, and how you can make use of this to create your custom lints and perform custom linting to make your code base stable and better to understand and read. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much. I hope you liked it. For more such best practices and development tips, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Thank you.